Coming up on the live and interactive ACSA Legislative Lunch Break, we'll bring you your latest information and news from the state capitol in CDE. We've got some budget information for you that's coming up. Plus, we are talking about special education and the budget. There's a new line item in the May revision. What does that mean for local school districts? We'll talk to experts in the field about what that may mean for you coming up starting in the new fiscal year. The ACSA Legislative Lunch Break starts right now. And it's just after 1 o'clock. We welcome you on a Wednesday to the live and interactive ACSA Legislative Lunch Break. I'm Naj Ali Khan, ACSA Senior Director of Marketing and Communications. My co-host, Dr. Edgar Zazwata, ACSA's Executive Director, on assignment today, so you'll have me solo. Go ahead and jump into our chat, say hello. Let us know where you're watching from. We got a really, really good show for you today. We'll be talking about special education funding. We've got experts in the field, and one of them is going to talk about what her school district is doing. While the population of students, the student enrollment is growing overall, we've seen a very large growth in population of special education students in that district. We'll hear how the district is managing that. That's coming up in just a couple of moments. First off, let's bring you some news headlines, and we'll start with the state budget. Lawmakers are expected to get the written part of the state budget as early as Friday. In fact, that's expected Friday. And then they will vote beginning Monday to meet that constitutional deadline. In the printed version, we'll see what happens with overall Prop 98 funding and the proposed withholding, the COLA, special education funding, which we'll be talking about in just a moment. ACSA will have details on the state budget along with analysis that's coming up next week. Of course, the race for state superintendent of public instruction now down to two candidates, Sonia Shaw and Richard Barrera, following last week's election. We conducted interviews with both of those candidates before the primary elections last week. We invite you to hear from those candidates. That's on our YouTube page. Some of you are watching us on the YouTube page right now. You can see those right after our show is done. Go ahead and take a look at that. Also wanted to point out a really, really interesting article, and hopefully my team behind the scenes will be able to put this into our chat today. This is especially important for our secondary school administrators, this story on personal finance classes, which will be a graduation requirement for high school students starting with the class of 2031. The article goes over the program in Fresno Unified and the steps that district is taking to get this program off and running, including some of the educators in Fresno Unified who are helping with the state's rollout program. So take a read of that story. That came out on Monday, but that is in today's edition of EdSource. Want to say hello to some of our viewers that are out there today. Scott Carroll over at Oxnard School District, ACSA Region 13, our president, Dr. Daryl Camp with us, Vivian Hamilton with us today. Neri, first one with us at 12:58 today. Neri, thanks again for joining us. Jared Hungerford, our vice president for legislative action as well. Okay, so May budget revision came out. There was a line item for an increase in special education funding there. We'll see what that increase looks like when the printed version of the budget comes out on Friday, and then the legislature starts voting on it on Monday. But we wanted to talk today about what districts can do if there is that increase to the special education funding, plus what some districts are doing right now to manage the increased population of special education students in their district. Let's bring on our two guests first. Monica Flores is the Assistant Superintendent of Instructional Services at Clovis Unified School District, and Anjanette Pelletier, Director of Management Consulting Services and longtime ACSA member. Monica and Anjanette, so great to have you here on the live and interactive ACSA Legislative Lunch Break. Anjanette, let me start with you. As mentioned, in the governor's May budget revision, there is that increase, that proposed increase for special education funding. Now, for years, there's been this push to increase special education funding. Finally, it's in there. What do you think prompted this increase?
Yeah, it really is a historic proposal. We've actually been using that word for the last couple of years. We've had some pretty dramatic increases in special education funding in the last 5 to 6 years. So that's been really welcome. But I think what has really prompted that increase proposal from the administration and the agreement that both houses seem to have in their budget proposals as well is that special education costs just continue to rise. Despite declining enrollment in the state in many, many places, we continue to see the number of students with disabilities increase. Districts are having more referrals and more students be eligible. Costs to offer special education programs have risen, and the intensity of special education need has grown as well. Here at School Services, we track the year over year total expenditures in the state, and that has been growing by millions of billions of dollars a year. And the cost for students with disabilities itself has gone up thousands of dollars per student with disabilities on average. So as districts are finding their revenues decrease when their enrollment declines, their special education expenditures continue. Did you lose me, or did I lose you?
No, I think your signal is stretched a little thin, so we'll give you a moment to see if we can reestablish that. Monica, as I mentioned, you are at Clovis Unified School District. Your district is experiencing a unique situation here in California. The overall student enrollment in your district has increased by 1%, but special education enrollment has increased by 15%. How has your district been managing that increase?
Yeah, so we have experienced quite a significant growth this year, and we will always say that, we see across California that enrollment has decreased across California, but here in Clovis Unified, we have a huge increase in special education. Some of the things that we're doing is, one, we are definitely working with our teams with MTSS, the multi-tiered systems of support, because ultimately what we can do with the general ed population and how we can support them in their interventions, we always want to look at that first and foremost. What can we do in the general ed setting that doesn't require the services that they're going to need in special education? But once they would come into special education, we have put in some systems into place in order to kind of track our growth. I think that's going to be an important piece. How do we sustain our teachers, and how do we onboard our paraprofessionals in order to support those students? So one of the things that we did do was, a few years back, is we contracted with and built something called Spectre. And Spectre is special education credentialing of teacher residents with Fresno State. It's kind of just a pipeline of teachers that are coming to Clovis Unified. We have worked and facilitated a great relationship with Fresno State to get these teachers onboarded to want to come to Clovis Unified. There's some great grants that come along with that for those that are trying to go into the residency program. We're really just trying to sustain them as they're getting their credential, and then obviously have that job and that commitment to Clovis Unified once they come out of their credentialing program. The next thing we do is we're really working on our onboarding. Keeping teachers and retaining teachers can be extremely difficult in special education. So we want to make sure we do everything possible to retain those teachers. And that comes with an onboarding process. Becoming a special education teacher can be extremely difficult, and can be a little bit hard to understand all the laws that you have to follow to support those students with their needs. So we really want to make sure we provide those services, not only for our teachers, but also for our paraprofessionals. We do a great onboarding for our paraprofessionals and building their capacity, because we know that's going to be kind of a pool that we might be able to pull into or need to go back and get their credential. So those are some of the things that we do, and we really do focus on that retention piece. How do we keep our teachers wanting to work with our most vulnerable population and really see what they can do to support those students? Lastly, we are looking at how are we going to sustain this, because growing at a 15% rate is pretty significant for us. So we are looking at working and doing some studies on, is what we're doing working, and is it sustainable, and what can we do better?
Yeah, I really do like that question that you guys are asking, whether is it sustainable, is it working? Monica, again, from Clovis Unified School District, we know that funding goes for students, but when we talk about going for students, we also know there's staff, there's facilities improvements, there's curriculum, there's technology. How does the money stay focused on students? How do you guys deliver for students when you have so many other things associated with this that you have to pay for?
Yeah, that's been a big task for us to do, because ultimately so many things can open up for us. But what we really want to make sure is we want to hear from boots on ground. We can have a lot of great ideas, but when it comes to understanding what a teacher needs and what those students need, we need to hear from our teachers. So some things that we've done that has been in place prior to me in this role is listening tours. I do listening tours with specific teachers depending on the program. So for example, this year I did it with our deaf and hard of hearing teachers. I need to hear what they're going through and what they're dealing with in order to better understand how I can support them. Because that is really truly what I'm here and designed to do. My job is to be that conduit of information, and how do we support them? So that's one of the things that we do. We do those 4 to 6 times a year. But what we realized in doing our listening tours is we were listening, they were giving us feedback, but we weren't always circling back with what do we do with that feedback? So this, and since I've been in the role for 3 years, our initiative is to focus on, and what are we doing, and follow up with that information. So if I have a listening tour in the fall, in the spring, they'll get the feedback of, and here's what we're doing to support you in your classroom. Next thing we do is we talk with our program specialists. Those are the ones that, again, are working directly with our teachers. And we actually review our growth monthly. So I kind of call it a butts and seat. I need to know who's actually in the classroom and what are we doing. But then that helps me anticipate what growth we're going to have for next year. And so I have sound evidence-based data that says this is what the growth will look like for the 26-27 school year. And in actuality, that put 18 new programs in Clovis Unified. So we had to look at facilities, we had to look at curriculum, but that is all based on a formula that we've created. We work very exclusively with business services to really better understand how do we build in the formula. We never want to get caught off guard. We never want to open a program to support students and not have the curriculum or not have the right paraprofessionals. So we really build into this formula, and we adjust those formulas as the needs for the students. So every year with business services, we look at those formulas. Does that formula still work? Is it what the student needs? And ultimately, is it what the teachers need? So those are the things that we do in order to kind of keep the money exactly going to students.
And folks, if you have questions for Monica and Anjanette, go ahead and put those into the chat. We'll try and tackle some of those at the end of the show. Anjanette, the last time you joined us, you talked a lot about how students with disabilities are general education students. They are entitled to high quality instruction and have a rightful presence in the general education environment. You made an important point about return on investment when districts put in the resources into early education. Can you point to a couple of districts out there that are seeing these positive results and positive outcomes, and what they may be doing to achieve some of these positive outcomes?
Yeah, I have been really, really excited to work with a couple of districts on some recent projects related to early investment in early childhood space. We definitely are seeing where districts are attempting to lean in and invest in their earliest grade span, where we're seeing meteoric growth across the state. The number of students coming in that preschool TK space is just been outpacing anything that we could have expected. And so it's been really exciting to see different districts look at their own resources, as Monica's saying, identify their people, their community, their pupils, and think about how can we make an investment in the students we have and an investment in a continuum of inclusive practice starting at the earliest grades. I've been really excited and proud to see the work of Paso Robles Joint Union School District, Marysville Joint Union School District, both of whom I recently worked with on a presentation with supporting innovative practices. But there are so many districts across the state doing innovative, inclusive things in early childhood that it's too many for me to even note. I would recommend that people go to the Cal ACSA the Early Childhood Special Education Network, to identify different partners that they may be able to see in their region to share resources. There was an excellent presentation just recently that highlighted the work in Lancaster. So there's, I know there's work in the far north. I'm seeing it everywhere. They are seeing that when they bring in more students, not just focusing on special ed, but on the whole continuum, they bring in more students to get better quality early childhood experiences. Those students often are ready to go to inclusive TK or K settings, which sets them on a path of inclusive practice rather than on a path of special day class, which once you're in, it's hard to get out of those special day classes environments, especially in our current environments of tight staffing needs and a lot of challenges with all of our students. So people who are investing are really finding a lot of positive outcomes.
And Anjanette, the first question I asked you, I mean, what do you think prompted this increase? I just want to, kind of set the stage here. You've been working for increases to special education funding for your entire career, 30 years, right? You've been taking trips to DC. You've been, not to age you in any way, but I mean, you've been taking those trips to DC. You've been at the state capitol trying to have these conversations with individuals, with lawmakers, with stakeholders, decision makers. What does it mean to you, having invested this kind of time in seeing our state government starting to pour the resources or look at this from a different lens that maybe they previously have been?
Yeah, it is really gratifying to finally been experiencing in the last couple of years sort of an impact, seeing the actual impact of many of the things that we've done. When you go to DC or Sacramento and you advocate for more spending for special ed, no one ever says, "Oh, we don't want to put funding there." What they do say is, "Oh, we have so many other competing demands," right? It's like going to your church and inviting people to come to church. They're already there with you. They believe in the fact that students with disabilities need resources. But to have that actually be seen action right now really is quite gratifying and satisfying. And one of the things that I'm really excited that I'm able to do here at School Services as I have been really trying to encourage people to see this really monumental potential investment that is coming for 26-27 as more than just a backfill for local general fund contribution. If all we do is say, we've been spending so much money, thank goodness we're getting more, and we just offset our general fund contribution, we really will lose some of the power of that increased investment. We have students who are going to need services, and we have trends that show our costs are growing. We need to start thinking about how do we redesign what we're doing? How do we reinvest in little pockets where we've been saying, oh, if only we had resources to build a behavioral cadre, to invest in early childhood, to rethink how we assign related service providers. If we don't take this opportunity now to do some of those actions that we said we thought were going to be valuable, then it really will, I think this new investment will just evaporate in our constantly growing costs for special ed. But if we can get some of that return on investment, then we may really be able to reshape special education into the future. And that feels exciting.
And let me ask both of you this question. And Monica, I'll have you respond first. So the Newsom administration's realization that special education needs more funding, does this bring you hope that there will be this fiduciary commitment moving forward, especially because we will have a new administration taking over after the 2026 general election? Again, this is for both of you, but I'll ask you first, Monica. Does this bring you hope that maybe now we've taken this turn and now we're looking at things differently?
Absolutely. I mean, ultimately, like I said earlier, this is, I've been blessed to have this be my passion, and I found a job where I can actually do my passion. Supporting our students in special education and with the services that they require. Anytime that anyone is talking about special education and funding and supporting and guiding, really does bring a lot of hope to many people. Myself, the families that we support, the students that we support. Ultimately, any work that we do, all of this work that we do, all the services we provided, it's to go to students to have them be as independent as possible. We want our students to have an opportunity to have all the goals that any other student has. And so when we put in the work, the time and the effort, and like Anthony was saying, with the early intervention, as we support them with related services, as we support them with their specialized academic instruction, we are creating people in our community that are going to be independent. And that is ultimately the goal for each and every student. So anytime anyone decides to put special ed on the top of the agenda, it brings us a lot of hope, because we want to make sure and ensure we provide the services and the quality of services that our students deserve.
And Anjanette, I'll ask you this same question. Does this bring you hope that there will be this fiduciary commitment moving forward, especially since we will have a new administration following the 2026 general election?
Yeah, it really does. Special education and ed code will receive COLA. So a new base rate only means that we will continue to receive funding at that level with COLA. But even with this amazing monumental commitment in the legislative proposal, there's still opportunities. The Assembly is proposing some additional revenue for things like the extraordinary cost pool, for enhancing resources for students who have exceptionally high cost needs. So we have not yet approached the point at which all of special education costs are being covered. Now, we weren't ever supposed to. General fund contribution is supposed to be part of the special education calculation, but it does make me hopeful that people are really seeing that revenue explicitly for special education releases pressure on the rest of the system and allows us to sort of lift all boats, if you will, with appropriate training, quality staffing, honoring the people who do that hardest work, giving all of our students access, as you said, that rightful presence in the least restrictive environment, which will help them grow and all of the other students grow. So it does really, really make me hopeful. And it also makes me hopeful that it will also improve relationships with our community members, with our families. Because a lot of times we hear that families feel like the focus is on how much things cost. And it's not supposed to be, but it is an influencer. And so having more resources really can help improve those relationships as we build out those systems that all of our students need.
I can say this, you two are doing great work out there, supporting all of these students. We so greatly appreciate the work that you guys are doing. Anjanette Peltier, Director of Management Consulting Services over at School Services of California, Monica Flores, Assistant Superintendent of Instructional Services at Clovis Unified School District. Thank you both so much for joining us here on the ACSA Legislative Lunch Break. We look forward to having you back soon.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
And folks, if you like what you've seen here on the ACSA Legislative Lunch Break, we invite you to follow us, like us, or subscribe to us, or all of those. When you do, especially if you go over and you follow us, you subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, and turn your notifications on. You'll get instant alerts when we're about to come on with breaking news and, of course, reminders about our regularly scheduled Wednesday show. And if you have great stories happening in your school communities, we want to tell those stories too. Send in your talking points, your news releases, and your photos to our EdCal editor, Michelle Carl, at mcarl@acsa.org. Thank you, folks, so much for joining us here on the ACSA Legislative Lunch Break. Reminder, we are here Wednesdays at 1 p.m. on ACSA Facebook, ACSA YouTube, and ACSA LinkedIn. Have a great rest of the day and rest of the week, and we'll see you next time.